Hamzamo family, welcome to the Fit for Correspondence show on the Black Fire Network Media for the 21st century. And I want to welcome you so much to yet another wonderful episode of the Fit for Correspondence, where we get to talk about different issues, news, and updates from across the continent of Africa. On this particular show, we get to discuss what's from the south of Africa, the north of Africa, the west of Africa, the east, and everywhere else in between. And we hope to get to enlighten your view of the continent of Africa, because we have realized over time that what has been reported by Western media most of the time happens to be news that is really not, it's not really objective. But on the Fit for Correspondence show, we purpose that when you get together, we can discuss on African issues with the aim of finding solutions on these particular matters. It might be social economic matters, it might be political issues, it might be environmental matters, it might be issues to do with employment, issues to do with different matters on different spheres. With the Fit for Correspondence show. And therefore, I want to welcome you so much. In Swahili, we normally do say karibuni sana. And of course, last year I've also been trying to learn a little bit about some of the different languages. So, over the course of this particular year, I might also be letting you know how far along I'm getting in terms of getting to know some other African languages. But yes, Swahili is a language to look out for. If you haven't been with us in any of the classes on the Black Fire Network, the Swahili classes, you can also get to check them out and find out what we were doing and we were up to learning a bit of Swahili. If you search for the Black Fire Network Swahili classes, you'll find them on YouTube. And maybe perhaps this year we might re-embark on the same and continue learning Swahili so that you can also be able to have a language of the continent, maybe perhaps that you are conversant with, or maybe perhaps that you are fluent in, which is Swahili. And that is what we are also looking for, to connect now people with a Fit for Correspondence. You might be from West Africa, you might be from East Africa, you might be even an African in the diaspora, you might be in the UK, you might be in the USA, Brazil, in the Caribbean, wherever you are at as a Black person. We want to welcome you to the Black Fire Network. And of course, I want to urge us to go to the website, which is www.blackfirenetwork.com. Once you are on the website, you can create your own profile on the network website, and you will be able to interact with the rest of the family. I have seen positive interaction on the website, which is wonderful, because we also do have a social network on the website, which is where you can also get to find out what's going on with everybody. And you can also get to find out what's new and what's popping with the network. We also do have an interactive app. Please make sure you download the app. It's available on Google Play Store. If you search for the Black Hot Fire Network on Google Play Store, you will find us there. Yesterday, we were not able to conclude our show. We did have a bit of a hit with the systems, but today we are hoping we shall have a smooth sailing. We are looking forward to getting to know what's happening on the continent of Africa. Remember, in case you want to get a hold of me on email, you can find me blackhotfireafrica@gmail.com, blackhotfireafrica@gmail.com. In case you also want to give us a call on WhatsApp, you can be able to do so by using +254 754 42730. Once again, it's +254 +254 754 42730. You will be able to find us also on WhatsApp, and also maybe call us in, and also get to interact with us as we proceed with the show. Yesterday, I was talking about the important matter of South Africa, and in South Africa, there was a fire that, of course, was burning down the parliament building over the weekend. And I was saying yesterday that a man has been arrested, and he's supposed to be arraigned. He's supposed to be arraigned with the charges of arson and also and therefore I that maybe we shall be getting to hear some news and updates regarding the same after his charge. But the thing is, you see, with parliament, the parliament that was getting to burn down in South Africa, this is a building that is really, really very, very much close to where we did have Desmond Tutu's funeral. Desmond Tutu was also buried over the weekend, last weekend, on the 1st of December. And for me, I do have a mixed feeling about Desmond Tutu. If anyone gets to get a Nobel Prize, and on the continent of Africa, if anyone gets to get elevated, especially by the European, they give them Nobel Prizes and everything else. I also put a question mark on the same. They said that he was instrumental in terms of fighting against the plight of the South African people through apartheid. But if you ask me, I think he was also part and parcel of the system. I don't think anyone would be putting forward a true force of opposition and then getting the kind of praise that he was getting in South Africa. And even for him to be elevated and to get the Nobel Peace Prize, that also gets to have me asking questions about Desmond Tutu. Of course, he was the Archbishop in South Africa for a long time. And for me, like you said, I have mixed feelings about people who get Nobel Prizes and also who get elevated, especially on the continent of Africa, because there is no way, for example, with these British, the British, they have oppressed, and also the Dutch, they have oppressed the South African people for a very, very long time, through colonialism and also even after. So if you do have someone like Desmond Tutu, who is being elevated and saying he has been fighting for the South African people, and therefore we want to bestow these honors upon him, and I don't think anyone would be fighting and then still get this kind of recognition. Nonetheless, for those who missed a little bit of what was happening with that, let me share with us a little bit of the funeral of Desmond Tutu, and you can also see, for him, he was called the moral compass of the country. But this is also South Africa, where we do have the same leaders who are talking about Desmond Tutu being the moral compass of this particular country. They are also the same leaders who have also been involved with corruption. So, for example, for the current president, his name is Cyril Ramaphosa. There were questions. Of course, sometimes he was called to be questioned about some corruption case, and even before him, in the same political party, which is the ANC, there was also Jacob Zuma. Of course, Jacob Zuma is, I believe, right now he's still in prison in South Africa. But nonetheless, this was a funeral of Desmond Tutu, and also after that, that is when we did have the parliament building being burned down. Some people have held this individual who was burning down the parliament as a hero, like a hero. There are mixed feelings about parliament being burned down in South Africa. But there's a little bit of how things were going with the issue of the funeral. Let me share these with us. Think that is not the one. Yeah, this was it.
To the voices of people who were paying tributes, who were sharing their unique stories about the men they encountered over the years. South Africans had been lost for words, even those who never really came to contact with him physically were just inspired, were in awe of the men they saw on TV, the men they hear speak, the men who, as I said earlier, gave so much to his country at a huge risk to his own person, but also someone else we'll be speaking to a little later on, who is a friend and colleague of his, who spent so much time with him, stretching about what 46 years. Yeah. We will be speaking to him. I mean, they had good times together, but they also had very rough and controversial times together, and he will indeed be taking us through that journey that they traversed together. And Vuyo, I want to hear all about some of those. I know yesterday we were talking about the difficult times they had, and at some point were in Venda and being threatened that they're going to be shot. And he narrated, of course, the torching of Poto House. And today, I want to hear about Arch, the man who joked around, Blaine, because that's someone we also remember this morning, Blaine. I mean, you think about the choirs that will be performing here, and there is no story when there was a choir that goes by, you don't see him dancing.
Of course, that was some tribute going to Desmond Tutu. But I was saying Desmond Tutu, of course, there are many institutions on the continent that have been named after Desmond Tutu. I believe even in South Africa, there are many places that you will find that have also been named under him. Derek Askew, thank you so much for joining us, brother. We hope that you're doing well in Georgia. And yesterday I was asking whether you're in Georgia, but then again, connectivity, there was a problem with the heat. We had a bit of a heat. But I do hope that you are doing well. For me, I don't know what's your thoughts about Desmond Tutu. For me, I even actually thought that he had died some years back. I didn't even actually know that Desmond Tutu was still living. But nonetheless, I always do say that if you do find white media elevating someone, you would have some questions about him. Because for him, he has been elevated by white media. Of course, they also gave him um, a Nobel Peace Prize. And for me, I was just saying, for example, even for Nelson Mandela, people do know that he was not really any good. Nelson Mandela himself, he has been elevated by white media. He's made to be seen as the icon of freedom on the continent of Africa. But how are you the icon of freedom? How are you actually the icon of freedom? And still, you are the land has not been given back to people. Black people, their land have actually not been given back to them. So for me, I think Desmond Tutu is, I would say, a controversial character for me. But nonetheless, this was him and his sentiments about apartheid in his own country. Let me just share a little bit of him and his experiences, talking about his fight and his struggle for the people of South Africa, which is struggle still continues.
South Africa, to hear another important black voice, we're joined briefly this morning by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the Anglican Archbishop of South Africa. Archbishop Tutu, thank you for taking a few minutes. Is Mr. Mandela now the universally recognized leader of the black nationalist movement in your country?
I have to say, I mean, he's just been behaving wonderfully well. And we have kept saying that he is head and shoulders above any other leader, black or white, in South Africa. He has never claimed to be the universal leader of all blacks. You heard in his speech that their commitment is to a multi-party democracy, which does mean that there would be place for any other people who have constituencies that seek to choose them to represent them.
You, sir, have made much over your quite brilliant career of the need to get rid of violence, to expunge violence from the struggle. And you hear Mr. Mandela in the United States saying it is still necessary. Does that make you uncomfortable?
Well, of course, I mean, our position is one that is quite clear and consistent that we are.
This is like Martin Luther King talking about there is no need for violence, But for me, I do believe what has been dealt on the African people is pure violence. What has been dealt, for example, in the Congo, when there was a takeover of they call it a free Congo estate by the Belgians, and that was under King Leopold II. What was dealt on the people was pure violence. People's hands being chopped off, people's legs being chopped off. And therefore, when you do find someone like these talking about we do not want violence, we want to go and do a march, go sing hymns, go sing songs. I will not follow or agree with the sentiments on how to go to get back the freedom and also get the power back to Black people's hands. But you also do know, even with Nelson Mandela or even with Desmond Tutu, go to South Africa right now. It's one of the most unequal societies you'll find anywhere in the world, where you will find the white minority, living very, very well, living in places where, living in the best places in South Africa. But when you go to the Black majority, people are living in abject poverty, making below $2 a day, which is, many people living under poverty line. But this is Desmond Tutu. Of course, he has been put out there, and this is also white media where he's doing an interview. You can also see the sentiments.
Firmly opposed to all forms of violence. But when you hear the kind of evidence that comes before the Harams Commission, the Heemstra Commissions, which are talking about the nefarious activities of agents of the system who have had death squads and hit lists, then you realize that our country is still very firmly violent, and the basic violence is the violence of apartheid. But we have already, as a synod of bishops in our church, made a call to the ANC that as the political business becomes more normalized, they ought to consider, at the very least, suspending the armed struggle and getting as quickly as possible.
Now, this is going back. That is where you do see, for example, in South Africa, you all do understand that in South Africa, the very first president in South Africa was actually a white person.
Today, we spend the hour remembering Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The South African anti-apartheid icon died Sunday at the age of 90. In 1984, Desmond Tutu won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work fighting to end white minority rule in South Africa. That same year, 1984, he traveled to Washington, where he denounced the Reagan administration's support for South Africa's apartheid government.
Apartheid is as evil, as immoral, as unchristian in my view as Nazism. And in my view, the Reagan administration's support and collaboration with it is equally immoral, evil, and totally unchristian without remainder.
In 1988, Archbishop Tutu risked jail by organizing a boycott of regional elections in South Africa.
I urge Black people in this diocese not to vote in the October elections. And I hope that white Anglicans will join their Black fellow Anglicans in that action. I am aware of the penalties attaching to this call. I am not defying the government. I am obeying God.
After the fall of apartheid and the election of Nelson Mandela.
This is her and Winnie Mandela. You can see Winnie Mandela on the side there. For me, I do believe Winnie Mandela was a real business. And Winnie Mandela was actually in it. And for her, she was actually a liberation icon for the continent. I do not know of Desmond Tutu's quest, but for Winnie Mandela, that I would say for her, she was a real business, and she handled matters in South Africa when Nelson or the other Desmond Tutu wouldn't.
As South Africa's first Black president, Archbishop Tutu chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where he pushed for restorative justice. He would later become a vocal critic of the ANC, the African National Congress, under the leadership of Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. This is Bishop Tutu speaking in 2011.
Hey, Mr. Zuma, you and your government don't represent me. You represent your own interests. And I'm warning you. I really am warning you out of love. I am warning you like I warn the nationalists. I am warning you. One day we will start praying for the defeat of the ANC government.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu also slammed the ANC in 2011 for not granting a visa to the Dalai Lama, who was invited to attend his 80th birthday. Archbishop Tutu was a leading voice for human.
Like I said, the guy was really controversial. You would see him also poking the government, and also that he's under the ANC party. And I'm a South African government. I'm a South African government record. In South Africa, what you realize in South Africa is that even till today, in as much as people might talk about freedom or liberation from from apathy, what happened is that even till today, white minority gets to run the country. And South Africans really do not have much say, because even if you go look into the issues of land, there has been a quest for this by the South African people to get back their land. But this is so many years after independence in 1994, when there was abolishment of these apartheid. But to realize, even after 1994, which is so many years ago, people do not still have control of even the economics of this particular country. People do not have even opportunities for them to develop themselves, simply because all these opportunities are actually run by the same white minority in the country. And therefore, that is why you do find, in as much as you told me this is a long walk to freedom, or this is what and that about Nelson Mandela or Desmond Tutu, or the ANC party, which is led by the president Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africans are still really out there struggling. And that is also to be said for the whole continent of Africa. The continent of Africa, you might say, oh, this country got its independence in 1957, I bet, like Ghana, or like in 1964, like Kenya, or maybe in 1962, like Tanzania. But look at the control and the ownership, the control of resources on these particular countries. You realize that no African country is truly independent. Yes, you might go up and celebrate maybe your 50th year of independence, your 60th year of independence, your 70th year of independence. It doesn't matter. But look at the control of resources. You do find most of the African leaders being puppet leaders who are really gatekeepers for the former colonialists. You would find, for example, a country like Botswana. Botswana is a South African country. But when the first president of the first president of Botswana was really a man who was also put there, I do believe, so that they can continue keeping, like a gatekeeper, to continue the access of, to continue allowing the access of resources by the Europeans to, on that particular country in Botswana. He also married a white woman. I'm trying to remember the name of these are the first president of Botswana. Let me also bring it up real quick, just an example. I don't remember the name of this particular one. His name was let me actually bring it up. His name was Seretse. His name was Seretse Kama. And come to think of it, you'll find that this is just an example of African leaders, the founding fathers. Let me just talk about the quote unquote founding fathers of the African nations. For example, in Kenya, we also did have Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who was the founding father. But even after these colonialists that were colonized by the British, you will find the control of resources still being under the British. And that is what has happened in this particular country. But this is the president. You would see him here, and this is just a perfect example of what was happening with that. I hope they do not strike this particular video for that. But let me share this real quick as we proceed. And then we'll also talk about what's happening with Ethiopia right now, because in Ethiopia it has been difficult. Let me share this. But I'm hoping for this particular day that we shall have also more positive news to report on the Fit for Correspondence show. So do not just ask yourself, why is it that when we report on Africa, you will find a whole lot of not so good stories. We shall also be doing a segment on positive stories and what's happening on the continent. This is the president of Botswana. A perfect example of what was happening with the gatekeeping.
I never met an African until I went to this London Missionary Society conference in 46, and I was N24. I went up to dinner, and at the table was Seretse Khama. Seretse was the inheritor as chief of the tribe, the Nkosi, which is like a king. We became very good friends, and I used to go up every Saturday night. My sister Ruth didn't have anything to do on Saturday night, so I asked her if she'd like to come up with me.
We met through my sister, but indirectly through the London Missionary Society. They used to have weekend sort of things for African students.
I clicked from the word go. You get this attraction. It's impossible to.
This is a quote unquote a founding father of an African nation who is actually fighting against the oppressor so that they can liberate the country. But who best to marry than the oppressor? This is exactly the kind of betrayal that was done by the president. And of course, he took over the country, and which was very, very. Botswana was really, really a poor country. And it has been doing relatively well, if I might say. Botswana really has been doing all right, coming from one of the poorest countries to making something of itself. Of course, we do know that it has all minerals. It has many minerals. It does have things like diamonds. It has a lot of resources on the ground. But nonetheless, I was just saying that a perfect example of these leaders that you would see the founding fathers, and we talk about the 50th anniversary of independence, all these other things, but people are yet to liberate themselves from the control of these colonizers so many years down the line. Let me share a little bit of this, then we shall talk about what's happening in Ethiopia, because in Ethiopia right now, they have decided to set up a commission. They have decided to set up a commission which will spearhead our dialogue and also reconciliation in this particular country. But before then, let me share a little bit about Botswana.
Which allowed Botswana to export beef to Europe at a price far higher than the world average. Upon gaining independence from Great Britain in 1966, the southern African country of Botswana was the second poorest country in the entire world. Despite occupying a territory about the same size as Spain, there was a grand total of just 12 kilometers of paved roads in the entire country. There were no hospitals and no universities, and the vast majority of its people were illiterate. Even within the small educated population, only 22 people had attended university, and only about 100 more had graduated high school. The country had no formal economy, and most of its citizens depended on cattle herding and subsistence farming as their only source of income. But fast forward 5 decades later, and
even till today, it's worth noting that Botswana has some of the best beef farming businesses. Not really businesses, but beef, they are big on beef farming. You'll find a lot of beef being exported from Botswana because most of the communities there are involved with herding cattle and also beef farming, even till today.
Botswana now stands apart as one of the most remarkable economic development success stories. Botswana today is the world's largest producer of gem diamonds and is one of only a handful of middle-income countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Botswana's GDP per capita was recently estimated at just over $18,500, placing it on par with countries like Mexico and Turkey, and above Brazil and Iran. In the most recent Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, Botswana was ranked as the least corrupt country in Africa, posting a better score than South.
When it comes to least corrupt country on the continent, I would go with a country like Rwanda. I don't think Rwanda, the tolerance, they do not have tolerance with corruption. So for me, if you're looking at the index, the corruption index, probably Botswana would be scoring all right. But I think for me, I would go with Rwanda, and I've also not had many corruption cases, allegations coming up from Botswana, which is also something positive because it's not the same thing to be said of South Africa or Kenya or Nigeria, where you do hear corruption scandals happening every other morning. And before you even forget about another scandal, another one even just comes up just to cover the other one. But for Botswana, I think in terms of maybe looking at opportunities, Botswana is doing all right. We also do have Namibia. Namibia also do believe is on a place where you can also consider going, and it's not really that corrupt in Namibia as well. For Botswana capital, I believe it's Gaborone, and you'd also be able to move easy. Personally, I have not been to Botswana myself, or Southern African country, but I purpose one day to also get to tour and see also what's good with those two countries, Botswana and Namibia as well.
Korea, Italy, and China. Botswana is also Africa's longest running multi-party democracy and is one of the most tolerant and peaceful countries in Africa. Although there's a long list of reasons why Botswana has been so successful, one of the most important factors was the visionary leadership of its first president, Sir Seretse Khama, the Botswana leader portrayed by British-Nigerian actor David Oyelowo in the 2016 film A United Kingdom. Born as the heir to the throne of the most powerful royal family in what was then known as the British Protectorate of Bechuanaland, Seretse Khama shot to international fame following the public controversy that surrounded his marriage to his English wife, Ruth Williams. The marriage was rejected both at home and abroad, firstly by Khama's own family, and secondly by the apartheid-promoting government of the Union of South Africa, which shared a border with Bechuanaland. You see, unlike countries like Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria, Bechuanaland was a British protectorate and not a British colony, which meant that it was technically still led by the native Bechuanaland rulers, as opposed to the British Crown. And so,
for me, I do not see any difference between being a colony and a protectorate. We also did hear about the British East Africa Company, which was also making protectorates. But protectorate, I do believe, would be under the protection of the Queen, which is not what was happening. You know, in as much as you might try to sugarcoat issues, say this is a colony, this is a protectorate, it's same nonsense.
By going against his family's wishes, Seretse Khama was putting his political future at serious risk. Now, although most of Khama's kinsmen eventually grew to accept the marriage, their geopolitical blowback would prove a lot more difficult to resolve. Having banned interracial marriages in 1949, the South African government was seriously opposed to having an interracial couple holding such an important position in a large country right across the northern border. Taking swift action, the South African government banned Seretse and his wife Ruth from setting foot on South African territory. The ban also extended to the city of Mahikeng, which at the time served as the administrative capital of Bechuanaland. The South Africans also chief of one of Bechuanaland's most influential tribes. And with the Labour-led government of Prime Minister Clement Attlee heavily in debt following World War II, Britain could not afford to risk breaking its relationship with South Africa, which was its primary source of cheap gold and uranium. And so, despite being heavily criticized by various pressure groups, the British government conducted a judicial inquiry which ultimately concluded that Khama would have been perfectly fit for leadership, but for his unfortunate marriage. Khama and his wife were then subsequently exiled from Bechuanaland in 1951. In 1956, however, the couple was allowed to return to Bechuanaland as normal citizens after Seretse Khama renounced the throne. Khama subsequently returned to politics in 1961 when he set up the Bechuanaland Democratic Party. His exile and renouncement of the throne had raised his profile among regular people, and he was elected Prime Minister of Bechuanaland following a landslide victory in 1965. As Prime Minister, Khama led the push for his nation's independence, and on the 30th of September 1966, Bechuanaland became the independent Republic of Botswana with Sir Seretse Khama as its first president. With his newly independent nation desperately poor and lacking basic amenities, Khama immediately got to work on what would ultimately go down as one of the most impressive economic transformation programs in modern African history. Khama's plan to transform Botswana was based on building an economy powered by the country's three main resources, which were cattle, copper, and diamonds. And while many other newly independent African governments would go on to see the resources become more of a curse than a blessing due to greed, corruption, and tribal infighting, Khama's government would be an exception to the general rule. In addition to implementing a very strong judicial and legislative system with effective checks and balances, Seretse Khama's economic policies would run contrary to the Marxist consensus amongst most of Africa's newly independent states, such as Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana and Sekou Touré's Guinea. His administration would put pragmatism over ideology, adopting business-friendly policies such as low corporate and income taxes and low import tariffs. And although he shared a border with the openly racist regimes of South Africa and Rhodesia, Khama was determined to build a nation where merit and content of character, as opposed to skin color, would be the primary determining factor for achievement and opportunity. Despite facing considerable political pressure to forcefully...
I'm not sure whether this has been it has been played out, but they say now at independence, Bechuanaland or Botswana really had 12 kilometers over tarmac, and it's crazy. A whole country, and also just a few people with degrees, and also less than 100 people who have also graduated school. there's so many things that I'll talk about Africa. I would like to confirm the facts because I don't think there was just 12 kilometers of tarmac by independence in 1966. I would think that would have been. I think it's crazy.
Replace all foreign members of the civil service with native-born citizens, regardless of their skill levels. Kharma's government stated numerous times that it would continue to employ foreign workers until the local population was sufficiently well-educated and skilled to compete for the same jobs. Kharma also employed several policy consultants and invited foreign mining companies to search his soil for more resources. This would lead to a significant increase in the government's income as additional copper, nickel, and coal deposits were discovered. In 1969, the government of Botswana entered into a partnership agreement with the De Beers Mining Company, setting.
When it comes to De Beers, of course, they ran South Africa even until today, and therefore I would, in as much as he is said to have had a planner for the country, I think what was happening he was in bed with these others, and also trying to. I believe he was not as corrupt. I would give him. I would give him that he was not really as much as corrupt. But nonetheless, Botswana, even till today, is not known for corruption. It's not like I said, South Africa or Nigeria or Kenya or Ghana. You'd find relative low levels of corruption in Botswana and also in Namibia. Sister Liberia, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I hope that you all do know Happy New Year to you. And also, Derek Aski, you saying Zulu Don. But I don't know who else is this. I don't know if it's like the stream gets on getting these. I don't know whomever this is. But Derek Ask, you saying Zulu Don. The Zulu people are all over the continent in Southern Africa. They are all over in Southern Africa. So you saying Zulu Don. But I was saying in Botswana, it's a country that has really come up from the bottom. You know, I don't know if the bottom gets any lower than having 12 kilometers of tarmac road for a whole country in 1966. I don't believe that. I don't think that was the case. But nonetheless, our family, I was saying a little bit earlier that the South African parliament was torched down. And of course, there was a man that was arrested in connection to these affair that was started in parliament really on the same weekend when we did have we did have the funeral of Desmond Tutu. So the man is due in court. The police is suspected arrested inside the building over the blaze that spread from the oldest wing of the National Assembly. And it's funny, when I was listening to the reporting of this particular story, and what they were saying is that, which is nonsensical, they were saying that in South Africa, with this particular fire, some of the things that were destroyed includes the national anthem, the Dutch national anthem. I was just wondering, out of anything else that would actually be destroyed, the only thing that the reporter cared to report about was the banning of the document to the original Dutch national anthem. And people are really stupid even when it comes to reporting issues, and it's like saying, really, this is also the Dutch National Assembly. It's like to that effect, because we do know the Dutch people around South Africa, and that was done in Afrikaans. So they were saying the original Afrikaans national anthem was also part of what was destroyed. But nonetheless, the man is due to appear in court today after massive fire tore through the South Africa's National Assembly building. An investigation has been opened. The blaze started about 3 a.m. on Sunday, in Parliament Complex, oldest wing, which was completed in 1884, and wood paneled rooms. So not many countries did have a national assembly in 1884. That would give you for fact. And we have seen even in South Africa, what was going on is that I don't think anyone black would have been in parliament in 1884, and because of apartheid. And of course, apartheid just ended the other day in 1994. So that would be a whole 100 years. That would be a whole 100 years of this thing being in existence, but not many black people being able to make any kind of decisions in this parliament. So I was saying some people have reacted differently to the banning of this parliament. Some people do think that this is just a show of disapproval of the work of the government in South Africa, because the government has not been on the people's side. The government has not really even done any legislation to get back the land to the rightful hands of the black people in South Africa. And I hope that even this particular year, maybe the same bills will return to parliament, because there was a bill last year which was saying that the government should be able to take back the land without making any compensation to these white minority that have taken most of the land in South Africa. And I think that is what should be done. In Zimbabwe, there was a retrogressive move where we did see the government of Zimbabwe paying these white farmers that had stolen the land, that had taken the land from the natives. And for me, so I think that is kind of a retrogressive, because you're trying to get back the land and give it back to the rightful people, but you're also paying those individuals who have stolen the land and compensating them for having stolen. And for me, that does not make any sense. But of course, Zimbabwe's hand was tied. There were many sanctions that were imposed on Zimbabwe, the European Union, Britain, the US, so many sanctions on Zimbabwe, such that nothing even works. The economy doesn't work for Zimbabwe right now. I think they have gone back to using the American dollar as a currency, and that is what people are being paid in Zimbabwe, because their own currency is not working. But there is a lot of disapproval. There is a lot of disapproval in South Africa for the government. What the government has been doing, a whole lot of disapproval with that, and that is why some people like kind of a move where we do have someone deciding to just burn it down, burn the whole thing down. Burn the whole thing down. But nonetheless, I just want to also bring up that particular matter of Zimbabwe paying some people in American dollars, because its own currency doesn't really work. And I was just saying that the nurses, the workers, not even the nurses really, but the workers also have decided to really request for their pay in American dollars, because their own currency there, it doesn't really work. They have broken down this particular country with sanctions, and I call that economic terrorism, because you break down a country such that its economy does not really get to work. But nonetheless, I want to take us into to Ethiopia, where things are also happening in a slow kind of pace. In Ethiopia right now, they have decided to form the first ever National Dialogue and Reconciliation Commission. In this country, my new year is in March, spring time, dear. Okay, it's all good. I hope that you are well. And what was this announcing that in Ethiopia right now, they have decided to put up a reconciliation and dialogue commission, which will be able to bring back together people, because we do have 81 tribes, 81 communities, 81 ethnic groups in Ethiopia, and therefore you would imagine that in many cases some of these communities feel marginalized. They feel that they have not been given the opportunity that is deserved by them in government. Some people feel, okay, when it comes to the appropriation, or when it comes to the division of positions in government, our community never gets to get anything, which is something that has held back Ethiopia for a very, very long time. I know that Ethiopia would have been much further ahead if at all this tribalism nonsense did not exist. But what has been happening for a long, long time is that every other group wants to, they want to fight for their own selves. You remember back in the day, we did not have Djibouti nor Eritrea. These were part of the large Ethiopia. But what happened eventually is that all these groups, for example, in Eritrea, you have 11 ethnic groups in Eritrea. But these were a group that also decided to also secede and be on their own self, be as a nation. And that is also what has been happening with the Tigray, the Tigrinya people. The Tigrinya people, of course, from the north, the northwestern part of Ethiopia, where they also want to secede and become their own bloc or become their own country in some sort of a way. And this has been a fight that has been being fought by the TPLF, or the Tigrinya, the Tigray Liberation People's Front. That is what they have been fighting for. So in Addis Ababa right now, they have decided that they want to go for dialogue and reconciliation. I think it's a positive thing, because I always keep on saying that if Ethiopia was to get its act right, it can be a model for development across the continent of Africa. People will look at Ethiopia, how far Ethiopia is coming, and also want to benchmark the same. I always also keep on saying the same for Ethiopia, that if Ethiopia was to get its act right, then we would have a model country that all other Africans can also follow in the same footsteps. And also for Kenya, for me, I think in Africa, we do have countries that have more potential than others. I also do believe that if countries worked more closely in the Pan-African spirit, then maybe perhaps you would be able to get faster to the goal of getting developed and to the goal of getting even industrialized as a continent by working more closely as countries. But what has happened is that tribalism has continued to pull back people, and right now Ethiopia has decided that they want to put in place the national dialogue and also a reconciliation commission in this particular country. And this comes after Ethiopia's federal parliament ratified a bill in a majority vote that state-affiliated broadcaster Fana reported. The bill was presented to parliament by the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who promised to commence a credible, inclusive national dialogue after his Prosperity Party won a landslide election in victory in June. For me, I don't think the elections were credible in Ethiopia. We did have the Prime Minister's party winning. One of the reasons before the start of this war, which started in 2020 November and has been running even till today, what happened is that the elections were supposed to have been done in 2019, but the government led by the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, they claimed that they were not ready, and also because of the global pandemic, that they could not risk having an election during that particular time when there was a quote unquote the spread of the pandemic. So what happened is that they went to parliament, and when they went to parliament, they decided to push forward the election. They made some changes, made a law to push the election to 2021. And this is our last year now. It was supposed to have happened in 2019. And for the regional governments, because in Ethiopia we do have the national government or the federal government and also regional governments. So for the regional governments, they were ready to continue with the elections in 2019. For example, for the Tigray region, the Tigray people, even after the federal government decided to postpone its elections to the other year, the Tigray people decided, no, we will not wait to next year. Our people are ready. We do not believe even with this whole pandemic, so we shall still continue to conduct our own election, which was against the federal government. So there was a scuffle, or there was a quarrel about that. And so eventually what did happen is that the same people, the Tigray people, decided now there was also now a time to go. The situation actually started around that particular time when other people felt that the government does not have the interest of the Tigray people. They want to continue going ahead with their own plans as they had done. And of course, there was also the fight between the federal government and also the TPLF, which represents or which is the regional Tigray People's Front, which really fights for like the autonomy of this very region in Tigray. But nonetheless, I do believe this is a move that was supposed to have been done even way before. I think this is a move that is coming in very, very late to having a national dialogue. The same thing has happened with national dialogue and a reconciliation commission. In South Africa, we have had the same. In countries where we have had civil war, for example, in Sierra Leone, and also in Liberia, reconciliation. The Gambia also did it. But in as much as this is being done to bring people from different groups and have a representative kind of a commission, I think that this will not help if we do not find ways of rooting out this problem of tribalism on the continent of Africa and also in Ethiopia, because this is where it's happening. These are 11-member commission to lead the process within coming 3 years. And even after these 3 years, I don't think a commission will be able to do this or bring the people together within 3 years, but it's also a good move. That is why I do say it's actually a new step towards getting closer to people now having an understanding. And I was saying, people do feel that they are not represented. They feel that our group or our tribe has not been given ministerial positions, or we do not have any ministers coming from our region, which is also it's backward. It's a backward kind of a thinking, because you cannot have, for example, for kind of like Ethiopia, which has 81 tribes. You cannot have 81 ministers. It's very difficult. You cannot have 81 ministers. What people should actually be fighting now is getting to elevate themselves from poverty. When poverty is actually the common enemy, and also ignorance. It's actually also another common enemy, because if today you were to have, for example, myself, in Kenya, we do have 47 different ethnic groups. If you were to have the president or like all the ministers coming from my ethnic group or coming from my community, that will not really help me anything with anything. I don't think that would make matters better for me. I don't think that would actually help me in any kind of way. The president is coming from my community, or is coming from this other community, or is coming from that other type. That does not really help, because we are actually struggling in the same kind of deplorable situations because of the economy not working in our own country and also in other different African countries. But people now want to be told that when you get the elections, you would have to have this particular person being from your own tribe. That is how they will get to benefit you. But that does not really benefit me in any kind of way. I do believe, yes, having a dialogue and a reconciliation commission is actually one way to go about it. But also at the end of the day, unless people wake up from the ignorance, that will not change matters. You know, you still have people going tribal and are fighting against each other because they do believe we are from a different ethnic group. But this is how Ethiopia has been struggling and working. I do believe the Prime Minister has been doing right by his people. For me, for the better part, I have gotten to explore and to find out what is happening in Ethiopia. There was a construction of this Grand Renaissance Dam, which is also, I believe, is also another factor that comes into play, because these are people who want to become self-sufficient in terms of energy, producing their own energy, industrializing their own country, and also forming or creating jobs for their own people. But for this particular project to continue, there has been a quarrel between Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. And some people believe some ministers, there was actually a minister who was quoted in Ethiopia saying that this destabilizing of the country, or this fighting, it is being funded by foreign elements, some of them from Egypt, so that they can actually backstall these. They can actually derail this plan for the Grand Renaissance Dam and this plan for the development of the country in Ethiopia. So that is why you will find some foreign elements funding this particular war on the side of the Tigray to go and fight the federal government, and also to destabilize this particular country, which is also working very, very hard under the leadership of Mr. Abiy Ahmed, to do something for his own people. For me, I think, like I said earlier, I don't think these elections are credible, but I think they also do need someone with an iron hand to make sure that things are actually happening, because there is no way you will carve and think that you will be able to do the work that is needed for you to do as an African leader just by succumbing, or just by going with whatever other people do say. And also, I do think another solution for the continent, not just for Ethiopia, is also having someone who is able to stand firmly without carving, or without even taking crap from anyone, which is what I think Abiy Ahmed is trying to do for his own people. And also, I believe the same should also be implemented. I'm not saying we should have a dictator in Ethiopia. That is not what I am saying, but I'm saying we should have someone who is also strong-handed to also make sure that the countries on the continent of Africa are also coming together. Maybe it might be Abiy Ahmed, I'm not sure, but we do not have such a particular individual at the moment who is now making people fall in line and come together as an African continent and work on a common agenda. In Ethiopia, that is why we do have the African Union, or the headquarters of the African Union. But I don't think also Ethiopia has played its rightful role in terms of getting people to also fall in line and work together as an African continent. I would hope that Abiy Ahmed would be able to do the same, but right now his country, of course, is destabilized. So how are you going to make sure that the continent is working while your own country is not working? It's a bit of a problem. But I am hoping at some point that we shall have also an African leader with an Pan-African spirit that is able to make also other African countries also fall in line and work in that particular kind of a regard. Nonetheless, we are almost coming closer to the end of this particular broadcast with the Fit for Correspondence show. But I was saying that there is still much more to be done on the continent of Africa. And I do believe that unless people come together and work as an African people without having these problems, or without having these small thinking with the boundaries, then I think we would be able to get somewhere. And also without having this small thinking of the communities and the tribes, then maybe perhaps we would be able to get somewhere. But nonetheless, family, keep on engaging us with the Black White Fire Network. Like I said, on the Black White Fire Network, you can also be able to connect with us. Let me share with us briefly on what you can find on the Black White Fire Network. It's very, very easy for you to be able to link up with us and also help us coming up with solutions. The family in Tanzania is doing well. We still have Sister Nishi in Tanzania. We still have Kate and Joby in Tanzania. And it's also good reporting, or it's also worth reporting that there has been some wonderful updates coming from Tanzania. We shall be sharing them. We shall be sharing with them with us later on the Africa Today show. And I also do hope that you join us on the same. This is the website. You can also find out what's going on with the family here. You are also welcome to share with us your sentiments, your thoughts, your news and updates, and also anything that is happening around you that you would think that you should bring to the attention of our people globally. You can be able to share it with us on the social network page, and of course, it's on the social. You just go to blackoutfinetwork.com/social, and you will be able to find us also there, and also connect with everyone else. We do have news and sports. We do have the African blog. We do have the shop. We do have the podcast. We do have the videos. We do have the show, the live stream, and everything else in between. That's wonderful. You can be able to find it right here with us. Sister Lightbearer, thank you so much for being with us on the stream today. And also Derek Askew, thank you so much for joining us from Georgia. It's always a delight to have you here, and we value and appreciate your support. Even with this here, we also continue asking for your support. For those that have been supporting us, it's incredible working the journey with you. And we also do hope to be able to do much more with the Blackout Financial because we need to be able to do much more this year than we did last year. And in case you also do have suggestions for us, kindly share with us your suggestions, how we can make these shows better, how we can be much more impactful with the information that we are sharing. Those suggestions are actually much welcome. You can email us, Blackout for Africa, or you can also email our kid, kcnewsam15@gmail.com, kcnewsam15@gmail.com, and we will be able to get all those suggestions, commendations, and everything else that you would like to also get across to us. We want to appreciate that. For now, we are leaving, and we hope that you have an enjoyable remaining part of the day. If you are able to join us later on today on the Africa Today show, please make sure you join us. And also, I think we shall be given the opportunity for family to also join us and just kick it with us as we discuss different pertinent issues that are facing us, and also how we can get to address these issues with the family globally. Till next time, much peace and love for now. I want to say kwaheri, which is Swahili for goodbye, tuonane baadaye, which is see you later.
Our version of Wake Up Everybody by the legendary Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, aka Teddy Pendergrass. So today, as you hear my baby talking in the background, I am Toby Pendergrass. Let's go. Wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backwards thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all you teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. So when you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. World won't get no better, yeah, if you just let it be. World won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, for you and me, for you and me, for you and me, for you and me. Wake up all you doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and catch all the hate. But they don't have so very long before the judgment day. So
Won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up, all you builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our mind. Surely things will work out. They do it